and welcome to Watch and Think. I am your host, Pastor Marioli Moore. Our title for this Watch and Think episode is called Lowering the Age of Sexual Consent for Children. Lowering the Age of Sexual Consent for Children. And my guest is Irene Armendariz Jackson. Welcome, Irene.
Thank you, Marioli.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and also about your being president of the Border Security Coalition?
Well, I am a native of El Paso, born and raised here in El Paso, born in the Segundo Barrio, raised in the Shaman area, but I attended La Primera Iglesia Bautista in Ciudad Juárez on Juárez Avenue until I got married, and my parents are still attending. All of us were raised there. I ran for Congress, and with what's happening right now on our border, I saw a need to give the voice to the people that actually live on the border, that we don't hear it secondhand, everything, and that it is and allegedly is not, and all the controversy behind that. So we formed the Border Security Coalition, and I think it's been very profitable. It's given us a platform nationally. And so we're able to speak about what really is happening on our border.
Oh, that's fantastic. Sounds like you need to come and do a United with Christ show with that, because it's so needful. It's so needed here in the
yes,
in the El Paso
I think there's a lot of
need for
bad
knowledge.
Information.
Oh,
a lot of bad information.
Yes, especially when you got like 50,000 a month coming in.
Well, what's scarier is that they just put out some data out this morning, and they're getting about 1,000 gotaways. What are those? So as open as our border is, that people are turning themselves in, that's in the thousands, but at least 1,000 that are getting away. And what we see right now happening in Israel, and that should be very concerning and very alarming, because even within the ones that do turn themselves in, we cannot say that there are not people there that want to harm us.
Yes.
And then the ones that got away, over 23,000 gotaways in the month of October so far.
Probably all terrorists. Oof.
It's awful.
Horrible. So, lowering the age of sexual consent for children. So, believe it or not, a normal person wants to know why pedophiles and the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning their sex, they want to know why. They want to know why these people want to lower the age of consent. Well, evidently, these people that are wondering why the lowering of the age of sexual consent for children is a mystery to them is because they're not keeping up with what's going on. They're not keeping up with all these horrible things that are happening to the babies, to the toddlers, to children, and people, all the children that are below the age of 15. There is no doubt in my mind that these men and women who are having sex with babies, toddlers, and little boys and children are demon-possessed. There is no doubt in my mind that the reason that they want to lower the age of consent for children is so that they will not end up going to jail, because there are a lot of state, federal, county laws that are on the books that will put you in jail till you die if you have sex with a minor. So in addition to these horrible things, these devils themselves are also not only having sex with them, they're also torturing the children. And there's also a lot of laws for cruel, inhumane laws. In addition to that, to lowering the age of consent is in the United States territory, a lot of people, like you were talking about, people that got away. There are a lot of people getting away with having sex with children who are underage. Because now they're saying I asked the child who was 5 years old if it was okay if I could have sex with them. And now they're saying, yes, the child said, yes, it was okay. I mean, that boggles my mind, especially more when an attorney and a judge are listening to this stupid conversation saying that they're not going, they can't prove whether it was consensual or not. Well, just look at the child, 5-year-old child. How can a 5-year-old child say it's okay to have sex with me? But then, Irene, what is your thought about lowering the age of a child to 5 years of age?
Well, we shouldn't be lowering the age, period. In our society, we believe that when you're 18, you're an adult. You can join the military. Therefore, you can consent. Of course, then the parameters come with whether you're a godly person and you have the fear of God, then you understand that sex is something that God created for the purpose of being fruitful and multiplying, and that honors God.
Yes.
And in the sanctity of marriage. So we have a lot of breakdown in our society when it comes to morality.
Yes.
I was saying before, when I was doing my master's degree, the first question that I was asked is, can you legislate morality? And that was a difficult question for me. And then later on, I was reading a book called The Original Intent by David Barton. And he explained it, and he said, yes, you can legislate morality. It just depends who is in government on whose morality you're going to legislate.
Yes.
So if we have this issue right now, then we got to look at who's in positions of authority over our society.
Yes.
From the school board, the water board, we have so many elected positions. But here in El Paso especially, we have one party that controls all the politics. So it doesn't matter what they do or they don't do. People are going to continue to vote for them just because they belong to that one particular party. And so we have a lot of ignorance. Goes back to Hosea. My people perish for the lack of knowledge. Not only the lack of knowledge, but the rejection of knowledge. So when we at a church especially, I'm invited and we talk about values, biblical values, especially when it comes to abortion, and I have somebody in the congregation that is aggressive towards me, then they're not born again.
No.
Because the scripture that I read over and over again is especially what God thinks about the sacrificing of children.
It's amazing.
And so you're talking about judges and lawyers. We have such a deep corruption in our judicial system. And I can speak of here in El Paso, because we have judges that are constantly elected and reelected whose life...
They retire.
Well, whose life does not reflect that they have a moral compass.
They don't.
And furthermore, some of these judges are in our family court system.
Mm-hmm.
And one of these judges is running for re-election, is being endorsed by our current representative. And that judge is known because she gives, and it's a female, which is crazy to me, how you as a woman do not want to protect that motherly duty, that instinct comes out of you, and gives the children to their abuser because of the corruption of who the lawyer representing the abuser is. Either they have a child with that lawyer or have a relationship with that. It's a matter of not our justice system, but it's really, and I hate to use this word, is who you're in bed with.
Exactly. Literally. So at this point, there is the rape law, the sexual assault law, the aggravated sexual assault law, the abusive sexual assault law, the grievous bodily harm law, the forced sexual law, the consented, incapable of consenting law. Let me go back to that one.
We're a country of laws, that's for sure.
Consented, incapable of consenting law. We got laws going out of our ears, and the laws are not being implemented.
And they're not being enforced.
Once again, it does not surprise me that the liberal, I'm saying it right, that the liberal...
The Bible talks about the left.
Federal, state, county, and city elected officials have also refused to stand up to the elite pedophiles, the LGBTQIA, aka the rainbow community, who are pushing to lower the age of consent. Now, all I can say is if a pastor's 5-year-old was raped and they said that it was because the 5-year-old said it was okay to have sex, and they let that person who raped the little 5-year-old go free, we are not only in trouble, we already are in hell.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Well, again, going back to the fact that we have such a deep corruption here in our city, and I'm talking about our city because my heart is for El Paso right now and for America, but this is where the Lord has called me to work and bring out the truth of what really is happening. Did you know, Mary Yoli, that the first child was actually protected by the Animal Protective Services? There was no Child Protective Services. There was
Wow.
Animal Protective Services before there was a Child Protective Services. Why is that so crucial? Because it exposes a society that holds more value for animals
Yes.
than they do for children.
It's amazing.
And so when children are being victimized over and over again, and the society, the adults that are supposed to be the ones that are reasonable and have the power to protect them and do nothing, then we just will continue to grow in the pedophilia world. They will because there's no consequence. Did you know that there's over 80,000 children missing from these unaccompanied minors that
I
are
do.
coming in through our southern border?
I sure
So
do.
one of the things that happened during the last administration is that they implemented the rapid DNA
Yes.
on children. And our representative, alongside Joaquin Castro from San Antonio and Taliba Rashid in Michigan, they sent a letter to the then Homeland Security Secretary, acting secretary, Chad Wolf, demanding that they suspend the rapid DNA. Why this was crucial is because, first of all, it showed the heart
The connection.
yes, the connection and the priority of that party, because all those three are from the same party that controls El Paso, and which you can't hide anymore. And second of all, this DNA, the statistics showed that over 30% of the children that were being tested were not with their biological parents, that these parents said that they were their children. Furthermore, they showed that these children had already come in with another set of parents. So these children, and we've seen it on the news a lot, where you can tell where they stop because there's a lot of used condoms and a lot of children's underwear laying around.
Yes.
I mean, you can only imagine.
What's
And
going
they
on?
do it where nobody else can hear them. And parents are paying these people by allowing their children to be raped and used for sexual profit. And so they have become a commodity. And that's, again, the Bible talks about the love of money being the root of all evil. This is all, that it all has to do with the love of money.
It has.
And we talked about it in our other shows, the Franklin cover-up, and it was connected to an organization in Omaha, Nebraska called the Boys Town. Well, I have a deep connection in Omaha, Nebraska, and that organization is still well and thriving, and it was all connected to politicians, and it was not just one party. It was across the board. So if the laws are not being enforced
which they're not.
to protect the children, then we got to see who is governing and who is in charge of enforcing those laws. And those people need to be eradicated from government.
So at this point, sexual relations with someone under the age of consent is considered statutory rape.
Right.
There are some states that have lowered it down to
California to 12.
To 12. And so,
And they want to keep going, by the way.
yes.
I think they're at 8 now. Like they're trying to make a bill where it's at 8.
As a matter of fact, it's no longer just 5 years of age. I have seen pictures after pictures after pictures of men having sex with babies.
So they're
That is
dark, very dark,
super dark.
very dark. And it happens.
This is satanic. This
They
is
have
pure
farms.
evil.
They have farms where they impregnate women to have babies just for sexual gratification.
Yes.
Where are we? Where are we as a society where the church doesn't speak against this and gets involved? And if you as a pastor, as a shepherd, do not equip your congregants, your sheep, your
Yes.
flock
Yes.
to stand up against this, then you may want to consider picking up another trade because
Yeah.
you will be held accountable.
A dishwasher.
A dishwasher.
Well, I am with my church. The name of my church is called Living Sacrifice Outreach Ministries. We started out with Living Sacrifice Ministries, and it started out pretty nice, normal church, pay the lights, pay the rent, make sure the carpets, make sure the toilets are clean, bathrooms, everything that you want when you go into a church, the prayer, the schedule, the singing, the choir, everything, the flowers on the tables, the this and the that. And after a while, I realized I am enslaved to this building. I am no longer out there telling people about Jesus. I am no longer out there looking to see what's happening to our children, the lost. And that's why my husband, may he rest in peace, he went ahead and he said, we need to close up the front door, lock it up, and do an outreach ministry. Consequently, we are out here doing outreach events, ministry, first-hand information, because these pastors are enslaved to their churches. They really have no clue what's really going on out in the world. And they come in and they tell you that they want to save souls, which is fine. But at the same time, when you're talking about all these children that are coming across the border, 80,000 at a whack, gone, never to be seen again, what happened to them?
Well, there's also the disappearance of children in Idaho it's Ohio, should be very concerning. By
Yes.
the day, these young American kids
Yes.
are disappearing.
Not only that, believe it or not, there is a lot of evidence that will show you that there are underground cities, not tunnels, underground cities, just like a regular city with bathrooms and elevators and streets and stoplights and green lights, When 3 years ago, when I was running around in Switzerland, underground, going through the tunnels, it was like an underground city. Coming to find out that that's where the majority of the children are being kept. They're being stored. They're in cages. They're in like a regular house, a regular room, but there are slaves. They're sexual slaves. And they also have them in the United States.
Houston is the #1 hub for human sex trafficking.
Yes, and there's a lot of tunnels all over the United States that connect to travel and
these
transport
are
children.
above ground. These are above ground. I was watching an interview the other day with
Above ground, underground, yes.
an FBI agent that says that if you go down to the barrio and you go into a bar and once you're drunk, they take you to a back room and there's all these children against the wall and you get to pick. And you pick that child, you go in the back, you rape them, and then the child comes back and stands on the wall again. This is above ground, out in the open, and we have some very strong churches in Houston. Some of them are very false churches. One of the largest ones is there. But they're not doing anything to protect the children.
You mean like the mega churches that have like 50,000 people going in there at one time?
Whose pastors look like they've had 10 plastic surgeries and drive luxurious cars and
fly jets all over the
and they can't stand up for the children.
They cannot.
They will be held accountable. Make no mistake.
Now, in your opinion, what would you suggest that a normal person do to talk? Would they go talk to their pastor? Would they go talk to their elected official about the lowering of the age consent?
Well, I think we need to ask our pastors to organize. They don't have to do it themselves, but they definitely have to have somebody in charge of what we call the civic ministry within your church. You're supposed to be, as a church, impacting society, not society impacting the church. And I think we're at a point where you cannot ignore this problem anymore. And the church needs to be equipped, first of all, with the knowledge, because I
Yes.
believe there's a lot of people still that on the pews that don't know that this is happening. We live in a bubble.
Sheltered.
Yeah, we live in a bubble, and believe me, when I started getting into this, it was shocking to me, the deprivation of man. But then again, you go back to scripture, and it shouldn't shock us.
No.
But until we stand against that, and as a church, organized church, go to the school boards and go together to the city council meetings, to the county meetings, and also the church. Identify that person that seems to be on top of it all, and help them run for office.
Yes.
Money is the number one issue why we don't have the reach that we want to have with the truth. If the church organizes and has a candidate and goes and knocks on doors and provides for the campaigns, we will change it. We will stop and eradicate, not sin per se, but this form of sin, and say we will not tolerate it. You know, pedophiles are walking around like they own America. Why? Because there's no consequence.
No consequence. And not only are they walking around, they're also, we really don't know who the pedophiles are anymore. You know?
Well, they're organized.
They all look so normal. I mean, when you see a man in a suit and quiet, or as pastors. I've known pastors.
I've seen police officers, pastors, teachers, especially teachers, have the kids sitting in their classroom for over 8 hours a day.
And they're sexually harassing them or sexually molesting them.
There's a lot of that going on in daycares. You know, all I can tell you is as Christians, we have put more value in the worldly things than we have in godly things, in things that break God's heart and that are important to God.
Yes.
We are sowing where the moth destroys, and this cannot continue, or we will. I mean, I believe we're already under judgment.
Yes.
But God's wrath in full capacity has not come down on us. We would be instantly destroyed. And if we want to continue the path that we're taking, then sit at your couch, sit on your pew, sit at your desk, and do nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Now, back to the lowering of states that have decided to lower the age of consent, sexual consent. What I'm also understanding, according to that over the last 10 years that they have seen that children who have the age was lowered, then comes the pregnancies, then comes the diseases, and then comes all sorts of other things that come along. We have little girls, even as young as 11 years old, getting pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
That surprised me. And so now it's just compounding one thing after another. Like you said, they are stealing young girls just to make them like pregnancy factories, mm-hmm. where they have sex with these young girls. These young girls have babies. These babies are born. Then these babies are used for God only knows what, organ transplanting and having sex with them. And it just gets so vile, nasty, vicious. It's like seeing a sci-fi movie. You know that?
Well, I think the church especially those of us that have been raised in the church, are very living in a bubble. We're very sheltered. And when we see this happening, we cannot comprehend.
No.
But we have to ask the Lord for discernment and know that this is happening. This is not a coincidence. Now, the scripture always tells us also that everything's going to be exposed.
Yes.
And I think we're going through a time of exposure. But what are we going to do with that knowledge? What are we going to do with that knowledge? The number one thing that I can tell people is get involved. Get involved civically. When the Lord called me into this world, we were coming back from Washington, D.C., and I told my husband, I need to step back from every ministry within the four walls of the church.
Yes.
And now from now on, the civic world is my ministry. And I think we have done a very good job. I will tell you that I'm probably one of the most hated women by the left here in El Paso, because for decades, nobody has stood in the gap and made sure that our society, the people of El Paso are not victimized over and over and over again.
Yes.
And so I'll take that as a badge of honor.
Yes.
Have there been death threats? Have there been attacks? Absolutely. But until God calls us to do something else, that's where we're at. If you want to get involved again, you can always call me 915-494-2851. Text me, reach out to me. And let's make sure that our city is a city where really the name of Jesus is proclaimed. Let's find out where those 80,000 children are. Let's find out what they're doing in the organizations that are within our city that are allegedly helping all these people that are
Yes.
coming into their country and are being funded by our own tax dollars.
Yes.
And are being really enslaved, and we just cannot turn a blind eye anymore.
No, it breaks my heart when every time I'm getting ready to fly out wherever I'm going, and I see all these. We're not supposed to call them illegal. We're supposed to call
Well, we
them.
can.
Yes.
The Border Patrol has been instructed, but we don't work for the Border Patrol.
No, and we know that they're illegal, and so they're sitting in the chairs. They're already sitting down. Planes getting ready to take off, and I see these poor innocent children, and I know what's going to happen to them.
And you feel powerless.
And you feel powerless. Well, I want to thank you, Irene,
Thank
for
you.
coming here and talking about lowering the age of sexual consent for children. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Likewise.
And I would like to ask you to come back and just have a wonderful time in the Lord. And I'm asking the people in the audience, watch and think audience, watch and think and pray for our children. God bless you so much. You have no idea how hard it is to put this type of program together, because it's a very dark, deep subject. It's a subject that just about no one wants to talk about. And I can assure you, this is not conspiracy. This is real. It's happening. I've seen it with my own eyes. So thank you again for watching Watch and Think. God bless you, and goodbye now.